I'm doing a giveaway to celebrate the 10th episode of my podcast. Whoever wins the giveaway will get a free lunch with me. To win the giveaway, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and leave a comment on the video with your name. Hi, I'm Victor Moss, real estate attorney, broker, and investor, but no one really cares. What they care about is that I'm a problem solver. So that's what I do for a living, is solve problems. I'm going to show you to find deals you never even knew existed.
Deals are everywhere, but you got to get off your butt.
One deal is all it takes to change your life. Victor freaking Moss, that's right.
Today we're going to be closing out the three-part miniseries by discussing projects that were initially failures but turned into successes through hard work and creativity. This miniseries allows for me to highlight some of the most memorable successes, failures, and the occasions where I turned an initial failure into a success. The point of the series wasn't to brag about the money I made on the successes or to dwell on the failures, but instead serve as a guide for any level investor to teach them situations to capitalize on and what situations they may want to potentially avoid. With that being said, let's dive into the final part of the series and talk about initial failures that turned out to be great profits for me. So the first deal I want to talk to you guys about is obviously my biggest deal of all time. I think I've mentioned it in another past series, but I'm really going to dive into it. I honestly think nobody wanted to touch this deal with a 10-foot pole because of all the problems. On one part, you had a man who died without a will. His second wife died 9 years earlier, also without any estate, probate of any kind. And he had 4 children. One had died, and 2 of them were in prison. His youngest was actually his grandchild who he adopted. So his whole family is a bunch of scripts. They're in prison, they're dying. On the other part of that deal, there was not 1, not 2, but 3 judgments, including, on top of that, back taxes of $29,000. On top of that was the rehab. This was going to be at least a $40,000 to $50,000 cosmetic rehab because everything was just nasty. So let's start at the beginning. You always start at the end. What could I resell this property if it's all fixed up? And I came up with the number at the time of $270. And I thought that was a good number. And so I looked at the judgments and everything, and they owed possibly about $225,000 just in judgments. There was no mortgage, but there was a lot in judgments. On top of that was the property taxes. On top of that was the rehab. On top of it was the family problems. So 99% of the investors out there wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. How did I find the deal? A neighbor, an aunt of an employee I had, she lived next door, and she's like, hey, this is this disgusting home in a great neighborhood in my town. So I took a look at it and I said, you know what? I can overcome these judgments. What most people are afraid to attack, I attacked, easily in fact. And I was able to get all 3 judgments removed for nothing. So that alone meant that I could buy this home for just the back taxes of $29,000, essentially 10 cents on the dollar, if I could make it happen. So it took me a few weeks to get the grandson to finally cooperate. I got him to sign. I got the stepbrother from the second wife to cooperate. He was actually the nicest one of everybody. And then I had to try to get the jailbirds to sign off. Well, one of them said she would do it. She was the biggest pain in this transaction. Every time I sent a notary in California where she was incarcerated, she would change her mind. And so that sucked after a while because she kept telling me, yes, I'm in, and then boom, 2 seconds later, she would change her mind. So finally, I just kind of gave up, and then, I don't know, about a week or 2 later, I said, you know what, this is still worth pursuing. And I'm glad I didn't stop like most people and just give up. So I decided just impulsively to take massive imperfect action, and I got a plane ticket, and I flew to San Diego. I only got one-way ticket because I didn't know when I was going to come back. And I didn't care. There's plenty of flights at the time between San Antonio and San Diego. And so I flew. And I had a layover in Phoenix. And while I was there, I got a rental car. I had just made my decision the night before. I'm going to go. I don't care. And this was a Memorial Day weekend many years ago. And I land and I get my rental car and I go to the first jail where the brother was at. Now everybody told me the brother was the nicest guy, and he turned out to be a very nice guy. And I made a deal with him. If he cooperated, I would give him $500 into his commissary account. That's like $1 million to these guys. And so he said, yeah, let's do it. But I also got him to do the video. So I get on my phone and I'm recording him And I say to him, just tell your sister to please cooperate. Tell her hi, because I was a lawyer. They let me take my phone in to the jail there. I then go to the last person, which is the woman who was incarcerated. And when I walked in, she says, who are you? And I says, well, I'm the guy who's been communicating with you for over a month to try to get this thing locked up. I said, what is stopping you from signing this? Tell me what I need to do to earn your business. And she basically said, look, I know you're going to overcome some of these judgments, but this is the only asset I have in the whole wide world. And I said, so if I give you more money and it doesn't work out, you're going to refund the money? She said, no. It's like, well, how's that fair? And I remember the biggest lesson. It's not about money, folks. It's not about money. I said, look, I'm here. I can do things for you. Could I give that money to someone else? Because I offered her $1,000. And I think she wanted 10. And truth be told, I would have easily written her a check for 10. But I just didn't want to, because I knew she'd just blow it on drugs and a bunch of other stuff. It's not my problem what she spends it on, but I've had instances where people just do dumb things with the money I give them. I hate giving sellers that are just going to throw away their money. It just seems silly. In this particular case, I leveraged the fact that there was over $200,000 in judgments and back taxes and the condition of the home. So I played her the video not only from her son, who was the grandson who got adopted by the grandfather, but also from the brother. And I finally got her to admit that yes, if I gave her the $1,000, she wants $700 to go to grandparents locally for 2 of her minor children, and $300 into her commissary account. It's great. I'll do it. And she said, well, how do I know you're going to do this? And I said, well, I'm being videotaped, audio and everything. I'm not going to get in trouble for $1,000. Hell, I just flew here and it cost me half that easily just for a direct flight. She's like, okay. So she had her driver's license information on her wristband. The notaries know this. And I got the deal done. And as I'm walking out of the jail, one of the jailers is looking at me, laughing at me, and she's just laughing at me. And I thought, well, what did I do? So I asked her, why are you laughing at me? And she said, I was here the 3 times you sent the notaries. And she said no every time. And here you are, and I'm listening to your conversation. And I said, there's no way you're going to convince her. There's no way. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing, and I'm like happy laugh. Like I couldn't believe you got her to say yes. That's what I'm happy for. So even the jailer was impressed that I was able to not just give up so easily. And so I walk out of that prison with the deal in hand. I got all the signatures. I don't have any judgments to worry about. So I bought this home for $29,000. And so what should have been a bad deal for everybody else was honestly the best deal ever, because I didn't give up. I got creative. I flew here, I flew there, and I got it all done. I wasn't even on the ground, I think 5-6 hours, and I was already flying back to San Antonio. I mean, that's a great deal. I could have wholesaled that deal and made over $130,000. Instead, I kept it. I kept it for about 3 years. I sold it a few years ago, and I got my $80,000 investment back in my pocket. Plus, I made $200,000 tax-free. Plus, I didn't have a mortgage for 3 years, and I calculated over $60,000 in savings there. So win, 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 win by not giving up. An initial failure, I turned into a big success. The next deal, let me start again. The next deal I would like to talk to you about is a recent deal where the house was burnt down. Now, I've never rehabbed a burnt home. It's just too long of a process, and time is our most valuable commodity. And so I tell you guys all this. Sometimes you got to cut your losses before it's too late. But this one I felt we could get a great deal on, and we did. We bought it for $25,000 and I think $20,000, excuse me. And we were able to wholesale it for like $35,000. I never did anything to the home. All I did was clean up the title. Now, that home had been vacant for a few years. It had been burnt for some time. Why couldn't anybody do anything with it? Well, part of this whole game is you have to find the sellers. You have to convince them that it's in their best interest to cooperate and work with you. And truth is, you can't approach them with, hey, what's the least you'll take for that property? It's just the wrong approach with most people, because then it turns them into financial experts, and they're not. And so you have to kind of approach it as, hey, we don't buy houses. We buy problems, and I am the problem solver. So Bob, my fictional seller, so Bob, what's it going to take for us to help you get rid of this problem? It's a different approach from what's the least you'll take for that. So their mind goes to money, versus mine goes to problems. I want them to associate the property as a big problem. And if I can take them there, then they're more inclined to use logic and say, you know what, I do want this problem to go away. What do we need to do? And so I got the guy to finally agree to come in. He came in, I think, on 2 occasions into my office, and I couldn't get him the first time. The second time, through sheer patience and follow-up, I got the deal. I don't think I spent more than 2 hours on that deal, all till I could make 15 grand. And so here's the big lesson I took from that. Everybody else who had tried had failed. Everybody else had failed. I approached it as, let me help you. What else do you need? And finally, I guess he just got to a point where he realized this was a huge problem, and I bought the problem, not the house, I bought the problem. And so I gave him a check. I said, come in. 1 signature, sign the deed over. Here's your money, off you go. I hope I never see you again. That's a joke, by the way, okay? But he cooperated. And so what did we do? We didn't do anything to the home. We just put it out to our circle of influence. And this guy, who I know, says, yeah, I'll take that on. I'll buy it for you at X amount, 35, I think. We bought it for 20 on paper. And he's going to spend over 70 grand rehabbing this home. He's probably going to spend 10 months rehabbing it. But he's getting close to doing the job, and he's going to list it for about 170. So he's going to be all in about 105, give or take. He's going to sell it for 70 after closing costs, commissions, holding costs, everything. He'll probably net about 50 grand. But if he does 2 or 3 of those deals a year, he's making a very good living. He doesn't have to go punch in. He works when he wants. He's got access to funds. He's happy as could be. Solved his problem. We're not investors. We are problem solvers. If you can get that through your mind and really think about it, that's all we are. I don't care if you're a lawyer or a broker or an accountant or whatever. You're not those titles. You actually are a problem solver. People are willing to pay you a lot of money if you can solve those problems for them. So a lot of you that are listening to this don't have a lot of money. So you're thinking, oh, I can't do this. I do most of my deals with no money, folks. No money. The big thing you have to focus on is learning where to find the deals, learning how to talk to the sellers, how to find the sellers, and how to put a deal together. And it takes no money. It just takes effort on your part. Here's the reality. There are thousands of investors who will gladly pay you a lot of money to go find those deals for them because they don't want to do it. They're lazy. They're scared. Any number of things. They will pay you a lot of money. So your job, if you're an investor, is to go find people with big problems and take that problem on under a contract, an agreement. And then once you have that, then you can do a bunch of things to overcome you not having any money. Number one, you could just wholesale the deal. In other words, pass it on to someone else, and now it's their problem, and they're going to give you a fee for your time. The second thing you can do is you can borrow money and do your own rehab if you want. Yes, there are lots of companies out there, hard money, private money, that will lend you the money to do the rehab. Now, if you've never done a rehab, don't do it unless you're going to joint venture with somebody. Learn how to do it by watching someone else do it. And you're going to learn some good and bad mistakes, but at least you limit the risk. That's important. So again, wholesale it, assign the contract, joint venture with somebody, borrow money, all the above. You can do all those things. There's not just one way. And your circumstances is different from mine, different from the next person. But don't make excuses. Go look for the deals. They're everywhere. They are everywhere. And if you don't know how to do that, then get some training. Get some training. You're not going to learn a lot of this stuff on YouTube. Sorry, they don't give you the good stuff, like the nuances of what we do. You've got to consider someone like myself or someone else to teach you how to do this. We don't charge much. I just want you to have some skin in the game, which is why I charge so little. But I do want you to have some skin in the game. So one of the things that I want to also focus on is how to overcome, I guess, major problems. You don't have the experience. You're new to this. How do I spot those problems so you don't bite off more than you can chew? First thing is do your own due diligence. I repeat, do your own due diligence. Don't listen to somebody who's trying to sell your property, whether it's a seller or a wholesaler. Don't listen to them. Seriously, do your own. Go look at the comps. What could it resell for conservatively? Great. What would it cost to actually rehab the home? Not with some number they pull out of their butt, but something for real. So how do you do that? Well, you hire 2 or 3. You don't hire, you get estimates from 2 or 3 contractors, workers, people that do rehabs. So find 2 or 3 of them and see where the numbers are at. If you've got 3 of them and one guy says 25, another guy says 28, another guy says 45, well, get rid of that 45. He's full of hot air. But you at least know you're about 30 grand in rehab. And so you always want to overestimate those because there's always oops that comes up. But if all of a sudden they come in at the rehab's going to be 50, 55, 60, but the seller or the wholesaler says, oh, it's only for 20 grand, well, then you know he's full of baloney and you can just move on. If you're not sure about something, put it under contract, get a home inspector and see what they think. Until you've done quite a few of these, you really should just take 1 step back before you take 2 steps forward. So don't be afraid. Another thing you can do is partner with somebody for a few deals. Make a deal. This is what I did for real. I did 5 rehabs with my mentor. 5 rehabs before I allowed myself to get out there and start doing it on my own. Because he was teaching me so many different things, so many nuances of doing this business that honestly I felt like I didn't care if I made $1 or not on those first 5 deals. I didn't care because I was doing OJT, on the job training. There's no better training than real life training. It's one thing to sit behind a desk in a classroom learning some topic, but out there in the real world, it's OJT, on the job training. That's the best kind. So that's the thing I would really recommend for you is partner with somebody, do a handful of deals before you go off on your own so you can avoid making major catastrophic mistakes. As always, thank you for watching. For more real estate investment and legal real estate content, please subscribe to our channel. Please follow me on social media, which you can find linked in the description below. Don't forget to visit thevictormoss.com, where you can register for coaching and my future events. To listen to the podcast, please search for The Victor Moss Real Estate Show, wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, linked below. Until next time, this is Victor Moss, signing off. Take care.